Ya sabe, ya sabe. Muy buenas a todos y bienvenidos una vez más a Hablemos Camino. Hoy va a ser un día especial porque vamos a tener que estar pasando del inglés al español. Tenemos con nosotros a Neill de Roux, from the Abbey, aquí en Navarra, cerca de Zabaldica. Y tenemos también con nosotros a Fran desde sus tierras chilenas y a José Luis desde la Trinidad de Arre. Muy buenas a todos, gracias por estar. Thank you, Neill, for being here with us.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Sí, entonces, hoy es un día especial. Para los que sepáis y estéis conectados, sabéis que bueno, la situación de Neill es una situación un poco precaria, ¿no? Y está en una situación especial. Así que lo que hemos planteado un poco esta sesión de Hablemos Camino, pues para que nos cuente un poco, Neill, cómo es un poco la experiencia de Abbey, ¿no? Cuál es la historia de la Abadía, cuál es su historia como peregrino. Y luego hablaremos un poco más, pues un poco qué podemos hacer para ayudar a Neill, ¿no? So today we will be talking about what is the story, Nell's stories, what is the story of the Abbey, what brought Neill to the Abbey, and why it's so important to keep such a place in the Camino de Santiago. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to give the spotlight to Neill. So he's going to introduce us to the Abbey and tell us a couple of stories. And what we will be doing, we will be stopping back and forth, and I will be translating for you in the back. So Neill, thank you for being here. How's everything going?
Thank you. It's fine. I think the most important thing is it's not raining. And you're from Pamplona, and you would know that with Pamplona, the nickname is Mordor. And
yeah.
It certainly has in the last few weeks, it has just rained and rained and rained. And the building has taken quite a bit of water. The Abbey, I first came across the Abbey on my Camino in 2010. In 2010, I walked the Camino. But I also met my partner that partnered with me in the Abbey, Catherine, and sadly we have since split. But Catherine and I got the idea that what we would do is buy the Abbey and restore it, but that we would have the house attached to it, which would become our family home, and we'd start a family. And we set upon trying to engage the Catholic Church. And if any of you have any experience with that, you'll know that things move slowly, very slowly. And in 2012, I set up meetings with them. And in actual fact, in that year, I held 4. What happened was... we had meetings with the architects. We had finally had a meeting with the Archbishop. It was actually the Archbishop who made the decision that he would sell it to us. But it did take a tremendous amount of effort. When Kath and I started...
I will take a little break so I will translate for all the Spanish speakers.
Sorry, my speaker's gone.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, so I will take a... So, lo que nos cuenta Neill es que, bueno, él se mudó a la Abadía, ¿no? Con la idea de restaurar esa Abadía. Esa Abadía, todos los que caminéis en el camino la veréis a vuestro paso desde Roncesvalles a Pamplona. Queda a la mano derecha cuando vas pasando, acercándote a la Rasuaña. Y es una pequeña casa, una antigua casa, ¿no? Que ahora nos contará Neill un poquito más de lo que tiene. Y lo que nos cuenta es que ellos se mudaron aquí con la idea de restaurar la Abadía y de hacer de la casa que está aledaña a ella su casa para su familia, ¿no?
So, the priest whose church this was, in all the time, I've heard that he's since passed, which is quite sad. The priest whose church this was actually refused to meet with us. And in the end, actually, we never got to meet him, which was quite sad. The buildings when Kath and I started were completely overgrown, and we both worked really, really hard to clear the property. I think that in total, something like 20 skip loads of garden refuge was actually sent back to the council. I know that we burnt for about 8 days to clear. And well, in the buildings, we took out more than 600 bags of rubble. I'm going to point out
Solo que
want to translate
cuenta un poco que en su día cuando llegaron, so in which year did you arrive to the Abbey?
2012.
So en 2012 cuando llegaron a la abadía estaba toda cubierta de vegetación, toda cubierta de maleza y que sacaron 20 camiones para poder liberar lo que es la zona y que luego de dentro de la abadía sacaron 600 kilos from the inside of the Abbey.
600 bags of rubble.
Bags
so
of rubble.
about bags of rubble, yes.
So more than 600 kilos for sure.
Well, each bag's about 50 kilos, so tons, literally tons and tons.
Y nos dice eso, que dentro de la abadía la cantidad de basura que sacaron fueron 600 bolsas de basura y que cada bolsa de esas grandes, no son bolsas de estas de construcción, pues unos 50 kilos lo que había ahí, ¿no? Entonces imaginaros en qué situación estaba cuando se lo encontraron. Pregunta, Fran. El micrófono.
Perdón.
Nada.
¿De qué congregación era la abadía y cuánto tiempo llevaba sola? Y si adentro encontraron algo religioso, algo propio de un lugar de culto.
So what Fran asked, Neill, is if you know the congregation that the church belonged to, and if you found anything related to the church or anything related to the Cathology or whatever, you know, the story of the place inside.
I think, Fran, if you hold in a second, what I'll do is I'm going to show you what we've got here, and then I'm going to take you inside the church, and I'll show you what we found. It's very, very interesting.
So Neill, lo que va a hacer va a ser ir contándonos un poco la historia de la iglesia, según nos la va enseñando, y lo que vamos a hacer va a ser entrar dentro y nos va a enseñar lo que descubrió y dónde lo descubrió. Así que le doy paso a Neill para que nos enseñe cómo va la iglesia. Para cualquiera que tenga preguntas, nos decís, y si es en inglés o en español, yo encantado de traducir.
Right. The building is incredibly interesting because, firstly, in the archives of Navarra, there is no documentation available on this building.
So, una de las cosas más interesantes del edificio es que no queda ningún tipo de reminiscencia en los archivos de Navarra. No se ha encontrado ningún texto que haga referencia a él en las arcas y han estado buscando, las monjas de Zabaldica, me contó Neill, que han estado buscando a ver si había información y que no se ha encontrado nada referente a este edificio.
The building is listed in the Spanish catalogue as being a 16th century church, but this information is not correct.
La iglesia dice que está bueno, actualmente en lo que es en el catálogo de las propiedades españolas, está puesta como una iglesia del siglo XVI.
With the work that I've done here and with the experts that I've consulted with, we know that when you look at the building, this buttress here has been added to the building. So the buttress there, the porch has been added to the building, and the tower has been added to the building.
So, como podéis observar, si veis el edificio, se ve que la parte de la derecha ha sido añadida posterior, que lo que es el porche se ha añadido también, y que la torre de la izquierda también son añadidos posteriores a su historia inicial.
When you look closely at the building, over here is the original door. You can just make out the outline. I'll take you a bit closer so you can see. The original door is here, and the ground levels here are completely wrong. If you see the red mark on the wall over there, and you look at the red mark alongside the church's door over there, those two levels should be the same.
Entonces lo que vemos aquí son esas dos marcas rojas que hay a cada lado que deberían ser iguales en ambos lados porque debería ser lo original de la iglesia.
Because, sorry, I'm just moving the camera around, it's a bit difficult, I can't turn it. When you look that this buttress here has been added to the building, this buttress was added, but at a later stage they added the porch. And we know that from the stonework on the porch, the stonework is 16th century. That tells me that the buttress came first. But that slotted window over there, there's a slotted window on the porch as well. And without the buttress being in the way, these two windows would have guarded that door.
Entonces lo que podemos ver aquí es que la parte esa se ve un trozo de pared que fue añadido, posteriormente se añadió el porche, que sí que se sabe que todo lo que es la piedra, el trabajo de piedra de masonería es del siglo XVI, pero lo que vemos es esa puerta que está escondida ahí, que está tapiada, y la ventana, que es una ventana vertical, una slotted window, ¿vale? Que está igual a la de la entrada, que deberían ser las dos que protegían o que daban entrada a la puerta esa que estaba ahí, que está sellada ahora mismo actualmente.
Right. What I'd like to show you before we go in, and this portion of land here is a pathway. It's overgrown at the moment, but this, on the maps that I have dating from the 1800s and that, this is the original Camino de Santiago. And it has been a source of a tremendous amount of pain for us. But I'll tell you a little bit about that just now. What I do want to share...
Ese trozo que vemos ahora, por el que está Neill paseando, es el que según los mapas que tiene Neill, y que es el antiguo Camino de Santiago, que pasaría pegado a eso, y que es un camino que, bueno, que ahora mismo está crecido por la vegetación, pero que sin más que el momento que, pues las épocas y la lluvia del tiempo, pero que por ahí hay un camino que pasa alrededor de la iglesia.
Right. What I want to share with you before I take you into the building is this. If you look on the side of the building here, there's an original Camino marker carved into the stone.
Si podéis ver ahí, se ve una marca original del camino que está totalmente labrada dentro de la piedra. Is that the cell, the one we see in the front?
Yes, yes.
Podéis ver ahí la concha que está labrada dentro de la propia piedra.
So, right, now I'm just going to walk around to the porch and we'll have a look there, because on the porch there's a very interesting thing, there's a number of interesting things. The information that I'm giving you now is not just, in English we say, sucked out of my thumb, as I've had experts from all over the world that have actually spent time here with me, and this is their thoughts and their ideas on what the church has. So the first thing I'd like to show you is the porch. And the porch is very beautiful. The stones date to the 16th century. But what makes it absolutely unique is the design of the stone is actually a Kabbalistic symbol. And to find a Kabbalistic symbol, it's the Kabbalistic symbol for the tree of life. To find a mystic Hebrew symbol on the porch of a Catholic church is unusual. When I started work here, this was all under cement. This is all the cement has been chiseled off and opened up, and it's very beautiful. Also in the stonework, there are 6 rosettas.
Okay, go ahead and translate. So, una de las cosas que nos comenta Neill es que toda esta información que nos está transmitiendo hoy es información que no es solo que la haya decidido él, ¿no? Sino que ha habido una serie de expertos de todo el mundo que han venido, ya sean peregrinos o estudiosos de este tipo de edificios, arqueólogos, que han ido ahí y han certificado que este tipo de información era real. Y lo último que nos enseña ahora es el suelo, que es un suelo que es muy especial por los dibujos que tiene, ¿no? Que tiene un símbolo que es cabalístico, ¿no? Y que es es lo secreto, lo misterio es de los judíos, y que es el árbol de la vida, ¿no? Y lo que nos está enseñando ahora es ese símbolo que está en el suelo, y si os fijáis son esas líneas que lo forman.
Right.
Go ahead, Neill.
The other thing that's also very unusual on the thing is, in our research, we've looked on this building, the door, just want to get this into focus for you. On the door, around the door, there are 26 stars. It keeps going out of focus. So around the door, there are 26 stars. It's a complete arch of stars. I stand corrected on this, and if anybody has any information that they can share, it would be really, really nice. But we can't find another church where the entrance to the church has a doorway of stars. They have arches of stars representing the heavens, but they don't have a complete door of stars.
Entonces, lo que Neill nos está contando es que la iglesia, en la entrada, tiene una puerta que tiene 26 estrellas labradas dentro de la puerta. Y una de las cosas que es sorprendente es que las puertas pueden tener estrellas alrededor, pero nunca labradas. Neill, Fran has a question and he was wondering if there's any cemetery of graveyard surrounding the Abbey that you have found.
There's
Okay.
a cemetery right behind me. But the interesting thing, and let's quickly take a walk in there, Fran, so you can have a look. The interesting thing about the cemetery is it's actually very new.
Okay.
It's built in 1960. The oldest grave in the cemetery is this one over here. And yeah, I'm just going to take you close up to it so you can see. If you look at the dates, the first person buried here was 1931, and then 1937 and 1940. And that would have been the period of the Spanish Civil War.
Okay.
But it's the only old grave alongside the church. All the graves here now are new. So from the 1960s.
Entonces lo que nos cuentan él es que el cementerio sí que está ahí, ¿no? Pero que es un cementerio que es de 1960, de 1930, de 1940, que no es un cementerio que date a los principios de lo que era la abadía, sino que es un cementerio muy moderno.
I have a copy of a map dated from the 1800s, and on that map it shows that the church's cemetery is on the hill somewhere over here. I haven't been able to locate it. I think I've always had the idea that we could maybe approach the military and see they have the most amazing satellite technology where they can show where the ground's been disturbed. You asked why would I...
Es que tiene unos mapas del siglo XVII en los que dicen que el cementerio podría estar más hacia la colina, más hacia la montaña, y que el cementerio antiguo podía estar por ahí, pero que no se sabe claramente, que habría que estudiar toda la zona, estudiar con imágenes y probablemente poder preguntar a los militares, que son los que mejores imágenes tienen aquí en España y mejores mapas, pero que habría que estudiarlo y que él todavía no ha podido llegar a estudiarlo, con lo cual no lo descarta.
All right. So, we're back in the doorway. We have a doorway of stars. But what's interesting for us is that when we first arrived here, the building was painted to look like stone. And the first question in my mind was, why would they paint a stone building to look like stone? Didn't make any sense. And I've started removing this. It's a painstaking process to remove what appears to be a sort of cement finish that was painted over the original paints. And the paints that we have uncovered, sorry, I'm just moving again so I can show you better. The paints that we have uncovered, we've sent samples to probably one of the world's leading experts in pigments in Oxford. And the report that we came back was that the colors on the wall here date to the early 1700s, as early as 1704. They were that specific.
Lo que Neill nos comenta aquí, lo que estamos viendo es la entrada, ¿no? El pórtico nuevo de la iglesia, que cuando ellos llegaron a la abadía estaba totalmente pintado para que pareciera cemento, para que pareciera piedra, ¿no? Entonces parece que debe tener algún tipo de cemento por encima, y que una vez que lo han ido limpiando, además de aparecer esas 26 estrellas, aparecieron pinturas, y que esos pigmentos se han mandado a Oxford para que los estudiaran, y dicen que son del siglo XVII. So what was the painting? The painting was like blue, or is that new, the blue that we see from here?
I'm going to... What we've done with scrapings and that, we can see that the door was originally painted a blood red color. It would have looked quite striking, actually, to have had the church entrance in red. But the internal arch is painted in a fleshy pink, which is an unusual color to use on the entrance of a church. The band of blue ran around the arch of the door, and of course the stars were painted in white. You then had radiating blue around the door, and in this panel, this arch of around the door, this at some point was also painted in the fleshy pink color. And the art experts that have looked at it have actually said that in actual fact, with its red and pink and arch of pink, it may have been a representation of the sacred female.
Vale, lo que nos cuentan ahí aquí es que la puerta ha estado pintado en azul, en rojo, y que también en tiempos llegó a estar pintada en rosa, que podría representar la deidad femenina. So Neill Fran has a couple questions for you. I'm gonna let him ask it and I will translate, okay?
Yes, of course.
Adelante, Fran.
No, lo que pasa es que, bueno, yo soy historiador, entonces me sale todo el historiador con todo este tema. El edificio es precioso, es demasiado, demasiado bonito. Y claro, muchas veces, un poco para que la gente entienda, muchas veces los edificios antiguos, sobre todo la iglesia, era la encargada de enseñar muchas cosas, de llevar por la sana doctrina a la gente, el convivir, qué sé yo. Entonces muchas de esas cosas las hacía a través de las pinturas, por eso las iglesias antiguas tienen grandes pinturas, grandes imágenes, donde muestran un valor, qué sé yo. Pero quería saber si hay algún registro de qué congregación es la que lleva esto, porque a veces si no tenemos un registro en el obispado de esto, puede haber un registro en la congregación, ya en la congregación propiamente tal, el historiador de la congregación que lo haya llevado, y eso es como mi duda. Yo creo que por ahí se podría conseguir un poquitito más.
Okay. So the question, Fran is an historian from Chile, so his PhD is in an historian. So he says that it's a lovely church, and thank you for showing us that. He's asking if you have any knowledge about the church belonging to any congregation.
We, if you're talking about the congregation for this church, we repeatedly asked the locals if they had photographs, if they had information, anything like that, and no one's ever come forward. In the 8 years that I've been here now, no one has ever brought us a photograph of a wedding, anything like that. It's been for us a little strange. We're not sure if it was just, well, I'd have to step back here and tell you a little story about what happened when we first arrived.
Okay, let me go ahead and translate. So, lo que nos dicen ellos es que en el tiempo que él lleva aquí, que han pedido a la comunidad o a la gente que mandara fotos o que les presentara fotos pues de bodas o de historia o de algo, y que no han conseguido nunca nada, no ha habido información acerca de eso, no si podría pertenecer a algún tipo de congregación. So there is no knowledge that it belonged to any congregation in Navarra or Wall or anything that was taking care prior to you arriving to the Abbey.
The building had been abandoned for 25 years when we arrived here. That is what we were able to establish.
Entonces, la abadía ha estado deshabitada por 25 años antes de que ellos llegaran. Entonces, ellos llegaron en el 2012, puesto 25 años antes había estado inhabitada. And what happened prior to those 25 years? Do you have any knowledge of the previous owner, or what was it?
The building was assessed in 1990 in order to be placed in the catalogue. And I can see from studying the assessment that the person that did the assessment never entered the church.
Entonces, la evaluación del edificio se hizo en 1990, cuando se catalogó en España, y que dice que por la valoración que se hizo, que probablemente la persona que la hizo ni siquiera casi entró dentro de la iglesia.
Right. We stepped to nothing. Right, stories. When we first got here, on the very, very first of November, which was All Saints' Day, we were here. Of course, we were new here, and there was a fairly large crowd outside the building, and they were actually a bit hostile. Mm-hmm. And an old lady had come up to me, and she stood shouting at me. And I called Catherine across and said, "What is she saying?" And Catherine said to me, "She's telling you it's not your church, it's not the Archbishop's church, it's our church."
Y lo que nos cuenta es que cuando llegaron por primera vez, que el 1 de noviembre, bueno, que es el Día de Todos los Santos, ¿no? Que lo que se encontraron fue un recibimiento muy bueno de la comunidad, ¿no? Que lo que le decían era que la iglesia no era suya, que tampoco era del obispo, ¿no? Sino que era la iglesia del pueblo.
Catherine very diplomatically said to her, "Well, perhaps you should go and talk to the Archbishop about that." And that seemed to be the last of it.
Entonces, su pareja en el momento le dijo que igual lo que tenía que hacer era ir y hablar con el obispo sobre ese tema.
Right. I'm going to show you some more of the church. When we arrived here, the church was completely paneled. The walls were all covered with paneling. There were wood floors down. The original Baroque altar on the wall, you can see the outline where the altar was, has been removed. So the building at some point had been looted, and in actual fact, it was actually quite a serious problem initially, was that there were local people that were determined to break into the church to take the church's bells. And
una cosa que nos cuenta Neill, nos dice que, bueno, como podéis ver ahí se ve que el altar, había un altar ahí que fue, que bueno, probablemente quitaría la iglesia. Cuando las iglesias se quitaban se movían los altares a otras, pero sí que cuando ellos llegaron a la iglesia, lo que es todas las paredes, todo el suelo, había madera un poco más moderna, las paredes estaban paneladas y ellos son los que han empezado ese trabajo un poco de recuperar la iglesia antigua que había ahí. Y sí que han tenido problemas pues de que mucha gente intentaba entrar a la iglesia pues para robar, quitar todo lo que podría haber de valor o lo que fuera.
Right, and as I said, if you listen, they didn't get the bells.
Y dice que mucha gente de la zona intentó entrar a robar las campanas, pero que no lo consiguieron, como podéis ver.
Right, I'm going to walk to the front of the church now because this is the interesting bit. I said earlier that I thought that the church hadn't been built as a church. It had been built possibly as a fortification. And the theory is based on this, and I'm just going to have to turn the phone around. In the stone here, there's a line of stone which represents the start of the sacred area in the building. Can you see that?
Yeah. Entonces lo que nos enseña ahí, si os fijáis en el suelo, se ve que, bueno, que nos cuentan es que probablemente la iglesia no fuera construida inicialmente como una iglesia, sino como una fortificación. Y ahí podemos ver las paredes en el suelo de piedra que identifican lo que podría ser la parte consagrada en su día de la iglesia, la parte más inicial de la iglesia.
Right, but when you look here, this is the position of the original door. And no church will have an external door entering the sacred area. It just wouldn't happen.
Las cosas muy interesantes es que si os fijáis ahí, ese arco donde está pintado en la pared es donde estaría la puerta original, y es muy interesante porque normalmente ninguna iglesia tiene una puerta directamente que entre directamente a la parte sagrada o consagrada de la iglesia, sino que suele estar siempre en un lateral o en la parte de atrás.
Right, so this is the interesting bit that I want to show you. And when the altar was removed, this painted altar was underneath. And this altar has been preliminary dated as mid-13th century. It is quite unusual. And I'm just going to stand here and see if I can get the phone and that to line up on it properly. If you look just above where the squares are, you'll see that there are two circles within those squares. Those are two sun signs.
Y podéis ver aquí el altar que apareció pintado cuando se quitó el altar que había delante. Which year was the altar, the painting dating from?
We think mid-13th century.
Te dicen que puede ser probablemente de mediados del siglo XIII.
Right. The fact that there are two sun signs are pagan symbols. And the art historians that have been here, and we've had about 6 art historians here so far, all agree that it's a pagan symbol. The shell, I'm going to give you the description and then you can translate. So let me just talk you through this.
Perfect.
At the top of the altar, there are 2 shells, 2 nautilus shells. And the nautilus shell is used to symbolize the sacred geometry of the universe. It's used to represent the spiral of life, but it's also associated with the goddess Venus. And the interesting thing, when I was researching the 26 stars around the door, was that I couldn't find a Christian deity that had 26 stars, but that the goddess Venus had 26 stars. An unusual thing. If you look at the top, you'll see that there's a triangle which holds the cross captive. And some argue that the triangle represents a trinity and others not. And depending on which art historian I spoke to, we'd get different views. What's unusual about the cross is that, well, in this sense, is that the cross is the Greek Orthodox cross. It's a double cross, diagonal cross through the cross. Our theory is that in the Greek alphabet, the fourth letter delta is a triangle, and it symbolizes entrance. And so we think that this altar is actually painted to be a doorway. It represents literally the doorway to the heavens.
Okay.
And do you want to translate that?
Yeah. If not, it's too much to help. So, está contando Neill que, por ejemplo, podéis ver ahí los símbolos que hay de... Can you point to the altar, to the sun, and to the symbols as I go through?
Yes, I'm just moving forward again, and I'm
Perfect.
going to...
Entonces veréis ahí que el altar que estaba pintado tiene símbolos que son paganos, como los soles que están ahí. Y luego arriba podemos ver que tiene las dos conchas. Yeah, so you can point to the shell.
And then the shells are on the top.
Que están en la parte superior, que son el símbolo pagano que podía representar a la diosa, a la deidad femenina, a Venus y al Fénix. Y luego una de las partes muy interesantes es el triángulo que tiene arriba, que como muchos sabes puede representar la Trinidad, y la cruz que hay dentro, enmarcada dentro del triángulo, pero que creen que representa más a la letra del alfabeto griego, ¿no? A delta, que es más como una representación de una puerta que podría ser una puerta hacia los cielos, ¿no? Entonces, que todo este altar representa un poco, con la parte tanto pagana como con la parte cristiana, una puerta para pasar hacia otro nivel, ¿no?
What's interesting is that the little dots on the altar, they're finger painted, they're very interesting. As they rise up towards the cross, they become more compact. And in that compact state, they pass through the triangle, and then above the triangle they swirl. And we think that the message with these little dots is that the dots represent people, and as they move up towards the cross and they pass through the cross, they then swirl up to heaven. So literally, this is the gateway to heaven.
Lo que nos está contando Neill es que, como podéis ver, los puntos que hay en la pared, ¿no? Son puntos que se van, según nos vamos acercando más hacia la parte de arriba de la puerta, hacia el delta, hacia la cruz, se van acumulando más cerca, y una vez que ya pasan de la cruz, como que se difunden y se van, ¿no? Lo que puede representar gente que se acercaba hacia la puerta de los cielos, ¿no? Y una vez que llegaban ya a ese momento, pues ya se llegaban al cielo y se iban, ¿no? Representando realmente la puerta de acceso al cielo.
Something else that we've uncovered is what we think is the entrance to a crypt.
Y ahí podemos ver lo que creen que es la entrada a una cripta.
And another thing that we've uncovered is actually a second altar. And the altar is really interesting because the painting on the altar is very abstract. For a church, extremely abstract. We think that this is a map. The blue dot represents this church, and these would have been pathways through the mountainside. Sadly, though, in 1960, they did a major renovation in this church, and when they installed the wooden flooring, they ripped out the steps around both altars, and you can see how careless they were. They plastered the walls, but when they plastered the walls, they splashed plaster across this paintwork, and they didn't even bother to wipe it off. There's other examples of just how careless they were. They built a new staircase going up to the new choir balcony. And recently, I uncovered a row of graves in the church. And so I'm going to turn around again. You can see the staircase. But across this area here is a line of graves. And I'm going to change the subject just a little bit because a few years ago, a gentleman arrived here. He was a German professor. And he asked me, he said, has your building ever been scanned? And I said, no. He said, well, I've got my equipment in the car. He was from the university in Berlin. He said, I've got my equipment in the car. We can do a scan. And he scanned the building, and we uncovered a number of coins, a medallion, and a couple of really interesting things, musket balls. but I'll come, if there's enough time, I'll come back to that. I that night posted a picture on Facebook, but the very next morning, the head of the Institute of Archaeologists in Pamplona was here, demanding to see inside the building. And I said to him at the time, it's a private building. And he said, it doesn't matter. If need be, they'll get a court order. And I said, that's not necessary. Let me show you around and show you what I was doing. And he was really impressed. He liked what he saw. He saw that everything, the work that we're doing here has been done in a very sensitive way. And he promised me that he would supply an archaeologist to work with us.
Okay, let me go ahead and went back to the altar. If we can show the picture, the map.
Yep.
Oh, to the side altar.
All right.
Yeah, the gravelins, those. So eso que podéis ver ahí, aunque parezca que son, they really look like kids doodling. I'm like, it's just interesting. So eso que podéis ver ahí, ven que puede ser algún tipo de mapa, ¿no? Y que cuando se rehabilitó la iglesia y se mejoró, ¿no? Pues con todo el cemento y tal, tuvieron muy poco cuidado y lo salpicaron, pero creen que esas líneas pueden ser mapas y pueden ser muy antiguos, pero que no se tuvo cuidado cuando se hizo la restauración.
Right. I'll quickly show you on the side, just get a torch out. There's a secret symbol on this altar. And on the side here, there is a hand with a finger pointing along this line. And we still don't know exactly what the symbolism is. The fact that it's hidden on the far side of the altar is unusual because it's not in plain view. Whether this was some sort of, as I said, some sort of symbol of a pathway that we're not aware of.
Entonces lo que nos enseñaba ahí Neill es, como podíais ver, se podía ver una mano, ¿no? Que apuntaba hacia algún destino, ¿no? Encima está con la línea apuntando, pero que no saben seguro qué podría ser esa mano, hacia dónde apunta o por qué está ahí.
Right. Now I'm quickly going to show you probably the most impressive thing about the building is its ceilings. The ceilings are incredible. And the ceilings are a Templar design for the flower of life.
Pues como podéis ver aquí, es una de las cosas que más se puede apreciar, ¿no? De más valor de esta iglesia, que son los tejados, ¿no? El techo. Y como podéis ver aquí, se aprecia que es un diseño templario, ¿no? Del árbol de la vida, como el que estaba. It's like the same one like what you have in the entrance, ¿no?
Yes.
El mismo que hay en la entrada del árbol de la vida.
There is speculation, given the layout of the building, that the building might have been a Templar building.
Hay especulaciones de que el edificio pueda ser templario. I'm going to ask José Luis, because also, you know, he's the hospitalero in la Trinidad de Arre, and there's also some speculations about the Trinidad de Arre being a Templar temple. So, ¿qué nos puedes decir, José Luis, de que esto pueda ser templario o no? Vamos a ver si se nos conecta.
He's having the same problems I did.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with you guys. Pero bueno, si no, Fran, ¿tú qué opinas hasta ahora de esta iglesia que tantos hemos pasado por ahí y no conocemos, ¿no?
No, realmente me parece increíble. Yo creo que me encantaría como historiador ir a darme una vuelta, claramente, y revisar un poco, ver los rincones, porque yo creo que tiene harto que mirar, harto que levantar. Lástima que a través de una brocha gorda pintaron toda la iglesia y taparon todas las pinturas que habían. ¿Ya? Eso de todas maneras igual se puede arreglar de alguna manera, pero es caro. Pero yo creo que la cantidad de historia que tiene ese edificio es gigante. Entonces sería buenísimo tratar de recuperarlo de alguna manera.
So he's saying, you know, that he would love to, as a historian, be there and being able to study what is under all that, you know, the layers of paints and, you know, being a pilgrim that so many of us, we go through and we don't even know that is there, that exists. So that is a pity that, you know, nobody's just working on finding more behind the paint. Y tú, José Luis, bueno, ¿qué opinas de esto?
El sitio es increíble y es para, como dice Fran, para ir allí y verlo despacito, despacito, despacito. De lo que comentabas antes de la historia de los templarios en Navarra, tenemos la gran suerte de que en el momento de la disolución de los templarios, suerte entre comillas, el rey de Navarra era hijo de Felipe el Hermoso de Francia, es decir, el rey que por sus santas narices consigue la disolución de la orden. El hijo de Felipe el Hermoso, rey de Navarra, nunca había pisado Navarra, pero en el momento de disolver la orden, su padre lo manda a Navarra para que tome posesión del reino y para que supervise directamente la desamortización de todos los bienes de los templarios. De tal manera que existe un listado muy exhaustivo de todos los bienes que eran de los templarios en ese momento, que pasaron o a manos de la corona o a manos de los hospitalarios de San Juan, básicamente de otras órdenes religiosas, ¿no? Ese inventario es muy exhaustivo en cuanto a la fotografía de ese momento, pero no nos vale para fijar una trayectoria de lo que fue la Orden del Temple en Navarra, porque la Orden del Temple entra, como en todos los sitios, muy despacito y va a lo largo de los 200 y pico años de historia que tiene, va cambiando. Modifica, aparece en la encomienda de Puente la Reina, por ejemplo, y cuando aparece la encomienda de Puente la Reina desaparece en otros lugares donde estaba. Es decir, perfectamente podemos estar ante una instalación que en su día pudo ser templaria, pero que no quede ningún rastro histórico de esa pertenencia y haya que recurrir a una arqueología para descubrirlo. Es lo mismo que pasa en la Trinidad de Arre. La Trinidad de Arre tenemos referencias muy tardías, de 1500 y pico, en las que miembros de lo que eran las cofradías de la Trinidad de aquel entonces recogen una historia oral de dónde viene este lugar. Y en esa historia oral fijan que esto es un hospital de peregrinos atribuido a la Orden del Temple. Por las fechas, en el caso de la Trinidad de Arre, seguramente es un hospital de peregrinos. Puede ser de la Orden del Temple, de la Orden de Malta o de la Orden de Santo Sepulcro. Y tenemos un montón de datos para pensar que podían ser del Temple, ¿no? Por ejemplo, la pertenencia de arcos, la existencia de arcos apuntados ya, es románico de transición, no estamos hablando de gótico todavía, y es lo que empiezan a hacer los templarios, cuando traen todos esos cálculos de Tierra Santa y son capaces de levantar el románico hacia lo que después será el gótico. Si estuviéramos en una abadía o un refugio, un lugar de la Orden del Temple, tendríamos que tener ahí, en esa zona, algunos de estos signos, ¿vale? Estamos hablando, porque nos ha dicho Neill, del siglo XIII, la Trinidad de Arre sería del siglo XII, es decir, sería un poquito anterior. Ahí tendría que haber ya algún signo que nos dijera esto es templario por el tipo de cantería que emplean, alguna marca de canteros podría haber, no es el caso en la Trinidad de Arre, porque lo que es el antiguo hospital de peregrinos lo desmontaron por completo, entonces es imposible buscar a día de hoy marca de canteros, pero en un edificio que se ha mantenido bastante bien es posible que aparezcan esas marcas de canteros, ¿no? Sería cuestión de hacer un trabajo arqueológico.
Entonces encaja, ¿no? En la historia de la zona encaja que podría ser la abadía, podría ser un edificio.
Encaja en términos generales. Hay unas leyendas de los templarios que nos dan pistas también. Por ejemplo, se dice que un templario podía recorrer la distancia desde Jerusalén hasta Santiago de Compostela a caballo, durmiendo todas las noches en un sitio templario. ¿Vale? Eso nos marca una distancia de dónde pueden estar los sitios templarios. Es decir, si tenemos la encomienda, por decirlo que es muy clara, la encomienda templaria la tenemos en Puente la Reina, a uña de caballo por delante y por detrás, en el camino debería haber un hito templario. ¿Vale? Esto, por ejemplo, Eunate, que siempre se dice que es templaria, no aparece en la lista, en las disposiciones de bienes de los templarios que se entregan cuando se disuelve la orden, no aparece, lo cual no quiere decir que no hubiera sido templaria con anterioridad. Cuidado, ¿vale? Tendría una función auxiliar a lo que es la encomienda, que está a 2,5 kilómetros de Puente la Reina, entonces perfectamente podría ser mantenerla dentro de la encomienda como una dotación auxiliar. Es decir, ahí dormían los peregrinos que al toque de campana no llegaban a Puente la Reina.
Ok, si me dejas, traduzco un poquito para los ingleses, aunque no voy a poder traducir todo. So what José Luis is the hospitalero at Arre, and he has done, some study about the story of the Templars. And the Trinidad of Arres is known to be, also, we don't know for sure, but it could be a Templar temple. And what he's saying, that one of the stories that has been told worldwide is that the Templars will be able to move from Jerusalem all the way to Santiago by horse, sleeping every day in a Templar housing or hospital or whatever. So that makes sense that, being the distance from Roncesvalles, from La Trinidad to the Abbey, that the Abbey could be perfectly, arranged via a Templar temple. And I want to present you to Mark. I invited Mark to come today to stay with us, so we have another English speaker and a little Spanish speaker. Thank you, Max, for joining us.
Thank you.
Hi, Mark. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Happy to support.
So go ahead, Neill. Continue.
All right. So I'm going to come back to this line of graves. We know from what I've read that the burying in graves, the burying in churches was outlawed in 1818, which means that these graves must be at least 200 years old. Sadly, in 1960, when they actually built their new stairs into the graves, which again just shows me such a lack of respect for what was here. I think 1960, they plastered the walls, they've plastered over all the original paintwork except for segments alongside the old Abbey, the old altar, and on the altar that was covered up.
So, lo que está diciendo es que las tumbas que se encontraron ahí son de hace unos 200 años y que una de la pena es que cuando construyeron esas nuevas escaleras las construyeron encima de las antiguas tumbas que había ahí.
I come back to the Institute of Archaeologists. If you can imagine, I mean, one of the challenges that we faced when we first came here was the lack of funding. To take on something like this, we've always known it was going to take a truckload of money, and we, despite many attempts, we just couldn't find a government department that was actually willing to engage with us. We initially had tremendous problems with the municipality of Esteribar. They litigated against us for 6 solid years, and we defended ourselves in the Tribunal of Navarra. In the Tribunal of Navarra ruled that the first 5 years of their litigation was illegal. We've never received an apology.
Entonces, una de las cosas que nos cuenta Neill es que al principio, como podéis comprender, el emprender una obra de este calado, ¿no? Cuesta mucho dinero, hace falta mucho dinero para poder hacer este tipo de obras y mantener un sitio como este. Entonces, uno de los problemas que tuvieron fue con la zona, ¿no? Que estuvieron en juicios por el derecho de propiedad y por diferentes derechos, y que estuvieron durante 5 años en juicios, y que al final el Tribunal de Navarra y el Tribunal Superior pues les dio la razón, pero que no han tenido que no se les ha pedido perdón desde entonces.
Okay, so I come back to my example of a lack of support from the authorities. I have written 4 times to the head of the Institute of Archaeologists, repeatedly asking him that I've uncovered this line of graves here, and given that these graves will be the ancestors of the local people, possibly, that he could please advise us on how we proceed, or that, well, the promise of supplying an archaeologist to us never materialized. And as I say, I had contact with him on Facebook, so I know who he is. We've exchanged emails. But the moment I kind of asked, well, what happened to the archaeologist? Just disappeared.
Tiene una pregunta, Fran, voy a traducir. Fran has a question, I will translate, and then I will give pass to Fran. Lo que nos cuentan es que, bueno, que han tenido problema con el tema de arqueólogos, ¿no? Buscando un arqueólogo profesional del gobierno, ¿no? Que les ayudara. Se les prometió en su día que alguien tomaría parte, ¿no? Y les ayudaría en este proceso, pero no ha sido así, no han podido contar con esa ayuda profesional para poder realizar todo ese trabajo. Fran, adelante.
Mira, me salen dos temas. Uno, no, es que son Galicia. No, vale. No sirve. No, lo que pasa es que pensando un poco, porque me quedé pegado en el tema de la historia del edificio, que lo encuentro genial. En el siglo XVIII, el rey mandó a hacer un catastro de todo el reino de Castilla, y dentro de eso estaba también Navarra, que es el catastro del Marqués de Ensenada. Este catastro, la gracia que tiene es que habla de todos los pueblos, pero con un detalle increíble. Ponte tú, dentro del pueblo se ve cuál es la población, se ve de quién son las tierras, si las tierras corresponden al rey, si corresponden a un señor, cuánto da cada tierra, qué es lo que produce cada uno, si existen iglesias, si existen tabernas y una serie de cosas. Entonces, yo creo que sería súper interesante revisar en el catastro del Marqués de Ensenada, que es de 1740 y algo, ver qué descripción hay del pueblo. Porque eso te va a dar el dato perfecto de qué es lo que había en ese lugar, en ese momento, y Navarra está dentro del catastro. Yo creo que eso te va a iluminar un montón en lo que es realmente el lugar y la abadía.
Okay, so what Fran is suggesting, as an historian, he knows probably more than me or José Luis or anyone here about Spain, and he's saying that there is a listing made ¿en qué año el catastro, Fran?
1747.
In the 1700s, that the Marqués de Ensenada make a listing of what was in every little village in Spain. So I don't know if you have any research about that, of any knowledge.
I don't.
So we'll pass that homework into Fran for him to already work on that.
Right.
Así que ya tienes tarea, Fran.
Ok, dale. Vale.
What I'm watching our time, and I wanted to say this is, whilst Catherine and I started this project together, sadly, Catherine and I have split, and it's been very hard. I with all the battles we fought here, I always thought that, we've battled the church initially, we battled the municipality for years, we've battled the locals, because the locals, they haven't all been friendly. But I never for a moment imagined that with being here, that the final battle that I would fight was actually with my ex-partner. And so I want to say this, is that Catherine, the building was placed in Catherine's name, and Catherine has claimed it. And so I won't discuss that, but Catherine is wanting to sell the building. And so if there's anybody out there that's interested in, maybe they can contact me.
So let me go ahead and translate. And, ahora mismo ya llegamos un poco, a lo que llegamos en esta historia de Neill, y la que es la parte dura, ¿no? Aunque luego, later I will ask you, Neill, I want to finish, in a happy mode, and we can say some pilgrims stories, but I want to go to the key of our meeting today, and it's helping you, okay? So, Neill, cuando se mudaron aquí, el edificio se puso a nombre de su compañera. Entonces, legalmente ella es la dueña y él está en la batalla legal por luchar por eso, ¿no? Pero el edificio actualmente está a la venta. Entonces, si hay algún peregrino, alguien interesado en esto, pues bueno, ya podéis contactar con Neill, o podéis contactar conmigo, os pondré en contacto con Neill, ¿no? Pero que sepamos que es una batalla que Neill está luchando ahora. Neill, I don't know if you want to also tell us, about your health situation. I think it's important for everyone to know what is your health status right now.
That's the tough bit, is in January, actually on my birthday, the doctor said to me they picked up a problem with the blood test that I'd had, and that led to other blood tests, and then a biopsy and scans, and 2 months ago they told me that I have stage 4 cancer.
So, I know this is hard for you, Neill, thank you. So, en enero de este año a Neill le diagnosticaron un cáncer de nivel 4 el día de su cumpleaños, y desde entonces pues ha venido peleando esta enfermedad que los que hemos pasado por gente querida con ella no sabemos lo que es. Entonces, pues es una situación que unida a su situación actual, pues con su pareja y todo, pues se suma, ¿no? Y para eso es para lo que estamos aquí.
So, with Catherine splitting is in February, she left to go back to England. But she and I have a really beautiful little girl her name is Evelyn, and she's now 4 years old.
Entonces, Neill y su pareja se mudó a Inglaterra en febrero, pero entre los dos tienen una niña que se llama Evelyn y que tiene 4 años.
Catherine and I had reached an agreement in court in terms of Evelyn, the custody of Evelyn. And sadly, since she's got to England, she's actually reneged on that. And no matter what I've tried, I've begged and I've pleaded. It started off with complete cutting me off from Evelyn. And it's now reduced me, instead of having daily contact with my child, to just a few minutes each week.
Entonces llegaron a un acuerdo en los tribunales de la custodia de la hija, ¿no? En la que Neill podría verla a ella, pero lógicamente desde que se ha ido a Inglaterra, pues Neill ya no tiene esa posibilidad de ver a su hija, ¿no?
If you ask me what I'm doing about it, is I've started a GoFundMe. It can be found on GoFundMe under help-Neill. I'm trying to raise funds that I'll be able to go to England and source an attorney and speak to the organizations that I have to, in order to allow me to gain access back to my child, because...
So, let me go ahead and translate and I will give you a little time. Tenéis ahí, Neill ha empezado una campaña en GoFundMe para que le permita poder ir a ver otra vez a su hija a Inglaterra y poder arreglar la situación allá. Y tenéis ahí abajo la dirección gofundme.com/help Neill. Y ahí tenéis toda la información de lo que está pasando Neill y podéis ayudarle con una donación de lo que queráis. Go ahead, Neill.
It seems I'm a bit sorry. Forgive me. I'm a bit emotional. If I talk about my daughter, I become very emotional. I'd like to spend some time with her.
If I could chime in a second.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. You know what he's doing, so
You know,
I will let me introduce you to Neill, and you can guys share a little of your story too.
I'm not worried about mine, but thank you very much.
Yeah.
I have a question, and how did you hurt yourself? I know it mentioned in the notes that you had hurt yourself. What exactly happened?
I lifted something that I shouldn't. The problem is at the Abbey, everything's heavy. You know, beams are
Okay.
not just normal beams, stones. I'll give you a perfect example of this. Is when we uncovered the doors, and I did it with the help of a few pilgrims, there were a few stones actually blocking it, so we didn't know it was there.
Right.
This is the sort of stone blocks that we would have to move. There is nothing around the Abbey that is small. These buildings were built to last, and the blocks of stone weigh, some of them, hundreds of kilograms. I just lifted something the wrong way one day. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we do.
I just tried to lift something that I shouldn't have, and I gave myself a hernia. I went for surgery, and it was fairly major. But the problem is, literally within 10 days, I was back in theatre again. And they haven't actually sorted the problem. So I still have severe pain. There's been all sorts of complications, because once you're starting, I suffer from hypertrophic scarring. So my body, any sort of injury on it, I scar really badly. And of course, the surgery caused tremendous amount of fibrosis. And I've really battled.
All right. All right. As far as, you know, and I'm just speaking to you as somebody that loves his daughter, and I am taking everything that you're telling me as authentic and above board. And there are men's organizations that can possibly connect you with an attorney that can help you in your situation. You know, the nice thing is I'm like looking at things online. There's one UK men's movement that was established around in the 1990s. I'm sure there's other, you know, representation organizations that can help you in your situation. You know, we don't know understand it's painful that the split has happened. And, you know, as a dad, you do have a right to be able to see your child. And yeah, sometimes, especially when you're in pain and you're hurting and you have these things going on around you, you feel a little bit lost. And sometimes you need somebody that can kind of give you guidance, you know, and that's
the thing that has affected me the most was we reached an agreement in court that we both signed. And that was that I would have daily contact with my child. And the fact that she's now arrived in the UK and that contact is now being cut off is devastating for me, because the courts in Spain are closed at the moment. We have an appeal against a case, an action that Catherine's attorney brought in September last year that is yet to reach the appeals court. I haven't been given very long to live. To get caught up in a legal thing, I'll die before I see my daughter.
Yeah.
So I will remind everyone, we can find to help Neill if you want to support the GoFundMe campaign here, and go to gofundme.com/f.lhelp-Neill. But I would love to finish, Neill, and you know, with the beautiful stories that we were talking this morning. I know that for all the five of us that we are here, we're all pilgrims, and I don't know why when we go through the Abbey, I didn't even remember the Abbey on my first day because I was probably talking with someone. But the other day, you know, it was beautiful that you posted that I was the first pilgrim that you saw on your window, and I went through. So I guess, you know, that's the beauty of the Camino. And as I was telling you, you know, my last week was also harsh. And I guess, you know, the Camino put people in your life when they have to put you. So I would love if you can share with us, you know, those beautiful stories of pilgrims that you have, those great memories that you have from the Abbey that you would love to share with everyone here.
How many days do you have?
Oh, I have plenty of beer for at least 3 or 4 days.
I have met some of the most incredible people. In fact, very close to the time that I hurt myself, this area alongside the church here has already been excavated and taken down by maybe a foot. And the woman that did that is a pilgrim by the name of Dorothea Daskin. And I will never forget Dorothea. She is from the little island of El Cortes in Washington. She was walking with her daughter, and the two of them stopped here to help me do work. And they worked here for about 3 or 4 days. Dorothea's daughter was 60 years old, and Dorothea was 93.
I'm just opening this to say, wow. So, la historia que nos cuenta Neill es que antes de que se hiriera, ¿no? Que trabajándola tuvo un problema con una hernia. Pararon 2 peregrinas, ¿no? Una que eran de Washington, de una isla de Washington, y eran Dorotea y su hija. Y la hija de Dorotea tenía 60 años y Dorotea tenía 96, o 86, you said?
93.
93 años, y pararon 3-4 días en la abadía para ayudarle a trabajar con él. O sea que, incredible.
Imagine that Dorothea loaded wheelbarrows and pushed them to the bottom of the garden and pushed the wheelbarrow back again. I spoke to her the other day. We've remained in contact. She is now, I think, 96. She said to me that she's planning on skydiving on her 100th birthday. She is just the most amazing pilgrim. And then I'll tell you one more pilgrim story.
Let me go translate prior you go into that one. So, nos ha contado que la señora, ¿no? Dorotea, que movió un barril de madera allá y que el otro día está en contacto con ella, ¿no? Y que ahora ya tiene 96 años y que le ha contado que quiere celebrar su 100 cumpleaños saltando en paracaídas, ¿no?
it was about 4 years ago, possibly 5. A pilgrim came walking up the road, and you know, any pilgrim that you pass that's going the wrong way, everyone jokes with them, you're going the wrong way. This man had walked from Turkey and he was on his way home. He had walked via Rome and he'd actually got to meet the Pope and shake his hand in St. Peter's Square on his way to Santiago. But I met him on his way back, and we exchanged details and things like that, and I stayed in contact with him. He walked, when he got home to Turkey, he decided that he actually wasn't going to stop, and so he continued and he walked to Jerusalem.
Wow.
He then...
Neill nos está contando que otra de las historias que se acuerda de peregrinos es un peregrino que venía de Turquía, ¿no? Y que siempre, pues los que estamos en el camino, cuando vemos un peregrino que va en dirección contraria o que va mal, no le decimos, pues bueno, te has equivocado, ¿no? Entonces, la gracia es que este peregrino no es que se hubiera equivocado, sino que había andado de Turquía hasta Roma, donde conoció al Papa y pudo darle la mano en la plaza de San Pedro, y estaba de vuelta desde Santiago hacia Turquía. Y que cuando llegó a Turquía decidió que no quería parar solo, sino que continuase hasta Jerusalén.
The problem is that next year, Tobias came walking up the road again. And I said, what are you doing here? He'd apparently, with a group of Berbers, crossed the desert with camels and gone down to the sea, where he took a ferry to Greece and then walked back through Italy, France, back to Santiago. And of course, the second time I met him, he was going home again.
Entonces dice que la segunda vez que le encontró, que esta vez lo que había hecho era, después de llegar a Jerusalén, había contactado probablemente con un grupo de bereberes y habían cruzado el desierto en camello, había ido a Grecia en barco, de ahí había pasado a Italia y estaba otra vez de vuelta del Camino de Santiago.
That night he stayed with Catherine and I in Pamplona, but the next morning he was back out at the Abbey, and we wanted to take a photograph of his credenzial, and the credenzial was too long to actually fit in the porch. So what we did, we had Tobias stand in the doorway with his credential coming up the steps, across the porch to the end of the cemetery wall.
Y dice que el día que estuvo en Pamplona se quedó con él y con su pareja en su casa en Pamplona, y que cuando pasaron por la abadía intentaron tomar foto de su credencial, pero que era tan grande que no cabía dentro del porche, y que, para que os hagáis una idea, la credencial de este tipo llegaba desde la puerta hasta el final del muro del cementerio.
Just an amazing man, and we've stayed in contact since he's got back to Turkey. He's actually, I hardly recognize him because he's fattened up a little bit. He told me that when he walked the Camino, on average, he walked 50 kilometers a day.
Wow.
And one day he said he got lost and he walked 70.
Dice que sigue en contacto con este peregrino, pero que desde que ha llegado a Turquía se ha vuelto un poquito más gordito, ¿no? Y que quizás es porque cuando andaba el camino andaba 50 kilómetros todos los días, y dice que el día que se perdió andó 70.
Yeah. There's a long list of pilgrims that have really stood out. People that have just done the most amazing things. A mother walking with her 6-month-old baby. The baby's name was Barbara. What was her name? In any case, I tend to remember most of them because I met a guy also about 4 or 5 years ago. He was from Taiwan. He'd arrived in Venice and he decided that he would first set off across Eastern Europe. And so he'd walked around Eastern Europe in winter, mind you. And on the morning that he found his way at the Abbey, he'd already walked 2,700 kilometers.
Wow.
The most amazing thing about him was, A, he was traveling in winter. He was walking barefoot. And he was traveling with no money.
So dice que una de las historias también que recuerda muy bien es de un peregrino taiwanés que llegó en invierno y que después de llegar a la abadía llevaba ya andados 2.700 kilómetros y que dos de las cosas que le impresionaron fuera el que estaba andando descalzo y que estaba viajando sin dinero.
The thing with his name was Kagami, and Kagami wouldn't accept any money. No matter how hard I tried to give him the donations that we had taken, he wouldn't accept money, but he accepted a little bit food. He shared something with me. It's apparently a Chinese parable. It says to walk 10,000 miles is the equivalent of reading 10,000 books. And he said to me he was working on his 10,000 books. It's always...
Kagami que no aceptaba nunca dinero, pero que sí que aceptaba comida, ¿no? Y que mientras estaban pues allí en la abadía le contó una parábola de allá que dice que el ahondar 10.000 millas o 10.000 kilómetros no es el equivalente a leer 10.000 libros. Entonces que él estaba en el proceso de conseguir leer esos 10.000 libros.
And yeah, so a 93-year-old, a barefoot pilgrim walking in the middle of winter in Europe, and a man who just wouldn't stop walking. Those are the three that have really stood out for me. And I joke about this. I say that the Camino, it's a spiritual route, but it sometimes does attract some very colorful characters. And a church like this, an ancient building like this, which is a sacred site, attracts a lot of them. And I've had to keep a very open mind with some of the folk that I've welcomed here, because everyone's welcome here. And that's actually how this project has progressed to the point that it has at the moment, is just with pilgrims. In summer, and of course this season we don't have it, but in summer we've always had volunteers that stop and stay here. Or I've kind of done the thing where if pilgrims couldn't find accommodation, that I would say to them, all right, you can stay here for the evening, give me a hand in the garden or something, or give me a hand in the house or whatever. And that was actually my vision for this property, is that it would be by pilgrims for pilgrims, without ever becoming commercialized.
So, lo que nos está contando Neill es que, bueno, que tiene muchas historias de gente, ¿no? Que al final estar en el Camino de Santiago en una iglesia como es la Abadía, ¿no? Que atrae a gente de todo tipo, gente muy peculiar y gente muy rara, y que el tener una mente abierta pues le hace conocer a toda esta gente que al final, pues bueno, el proyecto siempre ha sido de peregrinos y para peregrinos, ¿no? Y que en verano pues la gente se queda ahí de voluntarios, le echa una mano con el jardín, con la abadía o con lo que sea, pero que su sueño es que esto se convirtiera en un proyecto de peregrinos para peregrinos sin que llegara a ser comercial, ¿no? So what would be, right now, Neill, that if you want to say, some words to all the people listening out there, what can we do? What will be your wish for this place? What would you, would love to see one day from anywhere that happens to the Abbey?
I think that I said that I had backing from, not financial backing, but certainly some of the world's really quite renowned historians. And there are two professors, one from Ireland, one from England, that have been particularly interested in this project. And in fact, they wrote a report for me, which was a motivation to get UNESCO involved. So, because they agree with me that the listing of the building is not right. The building needs further investigation. It should have the benefit of ground penetrating radar. We believe that it's possibly built on an even older structure.
Yeah, let me go ahead and translate. If no, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold the whole thing. So, Neill nos cuenta que, bueno, que su objetivo sería que el edificio se estudie más, ¿no? Que hay dos profesores de historia y de arqueología, uno en Inglaterra y otro en Estados Unidos, en Irlanda, perdón, que creen que hay que hacer mayor estudio, que hay que entrar con un radar de penetración del suelo, el que se llama un LIDAR, y estudiar toda la zona porque probablemente haya muchos más asentamientos y haya mucho más por descubrir en esta zona.
My vision has always been that the building would be restored and that the building would actually become a museum to itself and to the local area. I've been doing something for the last couple of years. Every time, and it's taken a lot of hassle. Every time I see the roads department replacing signs along the Camino. I get in a big discussion with them, and they end up phoning bosses and all sorts of things like that. But I've managed to build up a little collection of the signs for the villages in this area. and sorry, just locals going by that I have to go, hi girls, and the thing, hi Sandra, hi, how are you? As the thing was that there's a photograph taken by the military here in 1931, which was kindly provided by one of the government departments to me, that is 168 megabytes big.
Wow.
It shows this area with the original Camino in incredible detail. And the plan inside, underneath the new balcony, my plan was that that area would have display cases to display the artifacts that have been found here, and to have that photograph blown up and placed across the wall, showing how the Abbey fitted into the landscape almost 100 years ago.
So, Neill, lo que nos cuenta es que a él le encantaría que la abadía se convirtiera en un museo de la propia abadía, ¿no? Que con el tiempo ha sido capaz de pelear con la gente de las carreteras para recopilar señales de todas las poblaciones de la zona, ¿no? Que tiene señales de eso, pero que además en la abadía se han encontrado muchas cosas, y en concreto hay una foto de los militares de principios del 1900 en la cual se puede ver toda la zona, ¿no? Y que su idea sería que esa foto pudiera encajarse ahí y enmarcar toda esa historia que tiene la abadía. I'm going to ask you, Neill, and I know that Fran is biting his nails. What did you find in the Abbey inside? Any relics, any coins, any artifacts? I know that Fran, as an historian, has a sweetheart for all that kind of objects, so he would love to know what did you find.
All right, Fran, probably one of the most interesting things that the two professors of medieval history looked at here is a coin that they think dates to the 1100s.
Entonces le he contado a Fran que te gusta toda la historia y todo esto, y me dice que una de las cosas que encontraron los dos profesores es una moneda que creen que pertenece a mediados del siglo XI.
And of course, a very good indication of a building's age would be what you find inside the building. We've also found a lot of ammunition, and that's unusual. We found musket balls, and some of the musket balls had been fired, so they'd hit the wall and literally shattered. We found musket balls. I recently found a musket ball that looked as if it had just been cast. And of course, musket balls date to about the 1800s. And that would place it probably...
bolas de mosquete, ¿no? Que encima estaban destruidas, con lo cual habían golpeado contra la pared, y que son más o menos del siglo XVIII.
That would place it probably at the time that the French came over the mountain, which tells me that there was actually fighting inside the church. I think that this building has a tremendous amount of secrets that it will still give up in the future. The one thing that I didn't mention about the second altar, my reading tells me that the founder of an abbey will always be entombed inside the church in an altar. And the fact that this church has two altars is that probably the founder of the abbey is entombed there. It would be really interesting to do a proper scan on that altar, because at that time it was already customary to be buried with your trinkets.
Dice que una de las cosas que puede ser es que en uno de los altares, ¿no? Que pueda estar el fundador de la abadía enterrado ahí, entonces que habría que escanearlo, ¿no? Al tener dos altares, y que puede ser una de las opciones que queda mucho por descubrir en la abadía y muchos secretos que puede tener.
Okay. The building, I'm just going to give you some specifications on the building, because I said to you that the building is now for sale. The building comprises of the church, the vestry, and the house. And the house is actually, well, it looks like a 3-story, but it of course has an area at the top. The roof area would always be used for storage. I'm not sure if I'm actually walking in the right direction here. The building itself, according to one of the old maps that I have, you can see that I have a vegetable garden here. This area on my maps tells me that this was the Abbey's original vegetable garden, we have a little dam area here. And in actual fact, the water that you see flowing across the road is the overflow. Our water supply comes from the mountainside from a spring. And it's the Abbey's original water supply. Looking on the 1931 photograph, you can see a pathway from the house to this area where the water is, which tells us that 90 odd years ago, they were actually collecting the water from the same source.
Wow.
The property...
Para que sepáis que ya está la abadía en venta, ¿no? Pues que toda esa zona que tiene ahora el cultivando, ¿no? Que la abadía se corresponde a lo que es la iglesia, toda la zona alrededor, la casa, que aunque parezca que tiene 3 pisos, son 2 pisos, y que ahí, pues el agua que viene es un manantial, y que lo que demuestra, pues que en el siglo XIX ya estaban acumulando el agua, ya tenían un sistema de regadío, y que lo que les llega a todos del manantial ese que hay desde la montaña.
The house comprises of about, if we combine all the floors, just under 300 square meters. But the property itself,
cuadrados.
The property itself is just under 2 acres. So it's, and we've planted it out with all new trees. We have a new orchard at the bottom. And the plan here was that in the future, that pilgrims would be able to come and camp here. Because it's the one thing, well, we already allow pilgrims to camp here because when the Camino gets so full, there's just no space. And lots of pilgrims walk with tents. And so we always say to them, give us 2 hours in the garden, camp for free. And it seems to work.
Y dice Neill que bueno, toda esa zona es la que han ido ellos arreglando, ¿no? Y que han plantado árboles nuevos y que su idea en el futuro era pues que eso fuera una zona para que los peregrinos pudieran acampar y que muchas veces pues cuando el camino se satura, ¿no? Que muchos peregrinos van con tienda, entonces lo que les dicen es que bueno, trabajas 2 horas en el jardín y puedes dormir aquí de gratis.
If any of you, once we finish this chat, want to get in touch with me, you can find, we have, the Abbey has a Facebook presence. It's the Abbey.es. So you can just search for the Abbey.es. Our symbol is actually the cross of St. James. And we're quite easy to find. In fact, if you go through our photographs on that page, all the stories that the stories I've told you are all there.
Okay, so here you can see the Abbey. I don't know if you can see it properly. It's a little flicky. Let me try again. Okay, there you go. There you have the Abbey, the Abbey.es, and then you have everything. And that's the beautiful Abbey over here.
Wow.
It really is. It's a stunning place. And I'm not sorry for the time that I've spent here. I'm just sorry that I'm not going to have more time here. I'm here. I don't know if you saw when I showed you our vegetable garden, is the first box is actually a sandbox. It's Evelyn's sandbox. And Evelyn always talks about the Abbey. I have some very interesting photographs of Evelyn assisting with work inside the Abbey. And I'm a bit sentimental, but those were the last 3 sandcastles I built with her before she left to go to England. And somehow they've managed to survive for 5 months. Well, not 5 months, 4 months already. So yeah,
with all the rain that we had. So if anyone wants
any questions,
the best way will be to contact you through the Abbey on Facebook, or they can contact us and we will give you the contact.
Contact you, and you can what you can also do is you can just WhatsApp me or whatever. And Fran, if you have any questions relating to the history of the building, please get in touch, because I will happily share the maps and things and the information that I have with you. I'm sure they'll be interesting for you.
Yeah, and I will remind everyone that the website, if you want to help Neill with the GoFundMe, gofundme.com, help Neill. So, quiero recordaros a todos que, bueno, cualquiera que quiera apuntarse en contacto con Neill sobre alguna pregunta sobre la abadía, sea de historia o sobre su historia, sobre qué hacen allí, pues que se ponga en contacto en Facebook en theabbey.es, o si no os podéis tener contacto conmigo y os pasaré la información. Y cualquier otra pregunta que tengáis, pues estará encantado de ayudaros. Y si queréis ayudarle con su campaña, pues ahí tienes la dirección de GoFundMe. Y nada, so I'm going to ask everyone if they have any help, any questions or whatever they have for you, Neill, to go ahead and ask you, and if no, we'll close it up. Si tenéis alguna pregunta, chicos, Fran, José Luis, if you have any questions, Mark.
I'm good. I'm good.
So
thank you all. It's been wonderful chatting with you here. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope that we can see you. Probably I will try to get José Luis in the car, and we will go and have some beers with you over there, and you can tell us a little bit more, and we can then provide more info. So, muchas gracias a todos. Nos volveremos en hablar en Hablemos Camino la semana que viene. Thank you, Mark. Gracias, José Luis. Gracias. Thank you, Neill. We wish you the best, and we will pray for you, and we will help you as much as we can. And as we say always,
thank you.
Ultrella and Etsusella. So that's all we have as a pilgrims. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. Buen camino.
Okay.
Buen camino. Gracias. Chao.
Buen camino. Bye.